Testing. 3, 2, 1. Testing, testing.
House and chat.
Hello, 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 hello. Testing. Can you hear me now? Hello. Hello, 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 hello. Hello, can you hear me now? Fucking God. Stupid Discord. Stupid fucking bird. Testing. There we go. Now they should be able to hear me. Let me know on YouTube. Can you hear me? Thank you. Thank you. All right. Evelyn, I think they should be able to hear you. Talk a little bit.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that's as far as I can count. Yeah.
Hey, it's a very impressive number.
It's not. Thanks you. Thanks you. Oh my gosh, I'm already breaking.
I think the count would dare to differ. So, all right, let me start out with my preamble. Thank you for your patience. Welcome to the Affray Community Night. It is cold, but we are about to get warmed up as we enjoy a symphonic musical suite of music and learn about the unique soundscape that has dotted all 10 of the chambers of Area 12's Discover program. So, Update 017 added some very unique new gameplay for everyone to chew on, but most importantly was the dynamic music. So, tell us, what was the approach to the music that was so much different than what we've seen before in SCP-5K?
This game mode is so much based on enemy, like it's wave based, right? You've got enemies coming, you've got hordes of enemies sometimes, you got smaller set. So it became hugely important that we take a dynamic approach, which is something that we hadn't really done in the game before. We had some dynamic music in the pit fight in point 15, which was probably the first venture really into it. But that one was relatively simplistic, where it just it was based on how close is the nearest enemy, how close is it? And then depending on that, it's more intense or less intense. For testing chambers, we developed a completely new system, which takes into account what type of enemies there are in the level, whether they're targeting you or targeting someone else on your team or not, no one at all. And it takes all of those variables and puts out a bunch of different parameters that we can then use in Fmod to transition between musical sections or fade in and out layers, depending on how intense we want the music to be in a moment. So that was all completely new code behind the scenes, which took a while to figure out, but we got it. And that system really enabled us to write the music in the way that it was written, where we have these different intensity levels that we can progress through, and each individual chamber obviously having their own score. At one point, there was sort of some talk about, well, maybe just every chamber has the same score except for like 1 or 2 because they're special. But it kind of quickly became obvious that really all of them need their own identity. So that was very fun. And compositionally, I mean, what I guess immediate comment is that whatever you hear in the testing chambers is not what you're going to hear in the main campaign. In case there's any worries about that, this one was so far out of left field because the game mode is quite far out of left field. And there's reasons for that I don't think I'm allowed to get into, but believe me, you will find out. But so this really opened up the door to just going kind of wild and letting inspirations sort of take over and be like, okay, what vibe does this have? And that's how we ended up with the music that we have in there today.
So, this is an interesting question that I think maybe you'd be able to speak more precisely. Video game music has evolved a lot. We used to have like little bleeps and bops and MIDI music. Some people think that we peaked in the 16-bit era, but then we kind of like went into the PlayStation and N64, and PlayStation sort of brought in like full songs with voiceover. You could have actual audio tracks, while it was a little bit more limited on the Nintendo 64 due to the fact that they had those archaic cartridges. Now we have dynamic scores that, like, when you get into combat, it goes, then it goes to like more palette, or maybe it's more suspenseful. When did that sort of start to begin in the world of gaming, where we had these dynamic scores, if you had to guess?
I mean, there's always sort of been a push for having the music adapt to the gameplay. And the way that we got to this place today is by taking sort of iterative steps. And it kind of went from bigger things that happened to more granular and granular stuff. So back in the day, you might have had one track in a whole game. And then eventually it's like, okay, actually, we can switch the music track depending on the situation. That alone is the beginning of dynamic music, gameplay adaptive music, by just having a different music track for the different situations that you're in. And then that sort of develops into, okay, but what can we do with this beyond just switching tracks? Is there a way that we can split the composition up in some way to make those changes? Instead of like changing to a whole different track, we jump to a different point in the track, or we switch out certain layers or whatever. And that's what became horizontal rescoring and vertical orchestration, where vertical orchestration is you have different layers, and depending on the gameplay situation, you turn those layers on and off. And horizontal reorchestration is, or resequencing, I should say, my apologies, is where you jump in time between different sections, depending on what gameplay is. And that just slowly became more and more refined as more and more composers got to use it, as the tools got better. In terms of writing dynamic scores, or like implementing them, at least, we're at the best place we've ever been. Like, there's so many great tools that allow us to write music in a way that we can really make fit to the gameplay in terms of a technical level. The second half of that is the actual craft of composing the music in a way that you can do all these dynamic things with it. And I'm not saying we're not at the highest level that could be. There's so many crazy things that you can do that are so like tiny things and so specifically composed. I mean, I yearn to get there one day, but.
So, from a technical standpoint, what are the triggers that happen in the game that, let you know this is the combat music, or, this is the sort of rodeo music? What exists, or what how do you get to that fusion where the game knows to switch the music when certain combat triggers start? And how is that data determined?
So in testing chambers, I basically took the approach of implementation. I can bring up fmod here, where basically as soon as you load into testing chambers, we begin one big event that then keeps track of the music for the rest of your session. So it's basically, you have to imagine we're switching tracks, but we're never explicitly stopping one and starting another one. We're just basically having one thing, and then we send information, and that it figures itself out. So depending on certain triggers, when you load into the map, this starts, and then the first chamber you're going to be in is the waiting room area. So that just causes a trigger to happen, which lets us know our location is now testing chamber. Not testing chamber, it's Z chamber. And so then we jump to here and we start hearing this music. That happens in the testing chamber. Oh gosh, I'm switching them up. Waiting chambers, waiting room. Gosh. It's been a long day. And then as soon as we have so many little bits and bobs that we can use to communicate information in some way. So when you step into the elevator, or when you get teleported to the chamber, beyond just getting teleported, the game is also letting fmod know, hey, we've switched locations, we've gone to the testing chambers, and we're specifically going to hometown. These are the internal names for these. So I don't know the external names, but I think manor would be, no. The last of them would be aquarium, for example. So the game just tells fmod that's what it is, and then based on that, it jumps from the Z chamber music to the testing chamber music, which is a nested thing, which then has this whole thing going on here. Basically, the way we compose it is that there's always a base layer for the intros, that always sounds the same between the chambers. And then we add a layer on top of that to make it sound the way that we want it to sound for Aquarium, for example. And then once this intro is finished, we jump again into this thing, which this is where the actual combat stuff happens. So there's basically 3 states that we can be in terms of the music. We can be out of combat. There's something called combat ready, which is sort of a term I stole from one of the latest Star Wars games. The composer did an amazing talk on their music system that I recommend checking out. And combat initiated.
Which Star Wars game was it?
Gosh, what was it called?
Outlaws, Battlegrounds.
Outlaws, yes, Outlaws. Yeah, it was Outlaws.
Oh, interesting.
A lot of this system is really based on Outlaws because it was just like such an intuitive thing that we were able to realize. But so out of combat, no enemies nearby. Combat ready, there's some enemies nearby, and then we have 4 different levels of combat. So low, medium, high, and we jump to these different intensities based on how many enemies are specifically targeting us and what kind of enemies there are. So if you have a zombie, if you have exclusively zombies, it takes a lot of zombies for it to jump to the high intensity layer. But if you have like a couple of golems, the 610, it jumps to the high level layer pretty quickly because they're much more of a threat than a zombie might be. And then there's also a hiding layer, which is you were just being chased, but all of the enemies have lost you. They've lost their track. And so you sort of chill out here until we go back to being out of combat or combat ready anyway. So that's how it technically happens behind the scenes.
That's really cool. Could we hear some of these? Could you play it in Fmod? Some of these different tracks?
I mean, I can play them in F1. I can also play them here.
Ooh, all right.
Whichever the composition happened. Yeah, so this is Cubase, just so everyone knows what they're looking at, which is a beautiful composition software. And all of these tracks are in some way instruments that we used in this score. So if you'd like to, I don't know, Isaac, do you want me to take people through one by one?
Yes, let's break it down. The night is young.
Oh, gosh.
Let us go through each and every single one. We've got, 10, 13 chambers of musical compositions to break down in detail.
Okay, well, we're not going to do a score analysis, but we're going to talk a little bit about them, I guess. I don't have these laid out in actual play order, so which one is the first one you play? That's Campground, isn't it?
Yeah, Campground is the first chamber.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, actually, you know, what? Do you have people have asked any questions, or any questions that people might have up to this point before I go into this? Or
that's not a bad thing. Before we get into the nitty gritty, so far they've been very patiently waiting. Does anyone have any specific questions they would like to throw to Evelyn about just composing music or the new music system that was featured in the Discover program before we move on? Any questions? You have a few minutes to give questions. I will give 30 seconds of talking time. Yesterday was Metroid Prime Day. Metroid Prime has an amazing score.
Was it?
Yeah, Metroid Prime 4 is out now.
That's crazy.
You didn't realize?
No, I didn't keep track.
I'm like I might even download it as soon as we're done here, so I can get to playing it. Although I'm afraid it'll burn down my Nintendo Switch, because I don't know how well optimized it is for the old one versus the Switch 2. Questions. No questions.
Questions.
All right. No pressing questions. There was one, although maybe I don't know if you can answer this. Didn't Death Stranding 2 use dynamic music?
Oh, I mean, definitely. And like any major video game, especially when there's a story involved, I mean, nowadays everything has to be dynamic. It's sort of, I mean, not has to be, like, it's obviously very dependent on the actual game, but those games, I mean, they benefit significantly from having adaptive music.
We do have not just a question, But a $5 super chat from Da Point Kid,
Holy
one of our
shit.
greatest critics, also greatest supporters. He made a 3-hour incredible video on SCP-5K with a lot of great praise and also some tough love. But it is great to see you here. Da Point Kid asks, here's a nickel. Great questions, Lobster. I'm interested in hearing, however, Evelyn, if you could answer them, do you wear any hats besides the music?
Oh, perhaps too many. Okay, no, that's hyperbole. Yeah, so I'm essentially, if you look in the credits, if you want to go by that, I guess, I'm lead audio designer and lead principal composer for the game. So currently, I'm overseeing all of the music as well as all of the audio creation. Most of my time ends up being doing music things and working in Fmod to implement sounds that our team makes. But yeah, so that's basically, it's a lot of stuff. I guess I could go into detail, but I'm not sure how much worth it. There's a couple of streams I've done before. There's like 1 or 2. So if you want to see some of the other stuff that I might be doing every so often, which is more related to sound effects instead of music, you can see those on the YouTube channel, I think.
Yes. The previous events we've done with Evelyn, there is one where went through the sort of sound design, the 3D sound effects, and how, like, glass is triggered at like different points, and how in the 3D space there are just all kinds of sound effects all over in SCP-5K, and it is absolutely a fascinating thing. So if you want to have a more detailed look at how that works, I'd highly recommend going back to that stream, since it gives you a great idea of how many different elements there are to getting sound work in a current video game, because video games just get more and more complicated to make.
I see a comment from Jekyll in the Discord chat saying W Shark, hell yeah. Also, will the animation of kicking the little zombies have official sound effects? That's funny because I'm not exactly sure what you're talking about. Is there an animation kicking the little zombies? Is something I don't know about? The baby zombies
I
are
think
scrapped. So,
there was an idea of, like,
No.
originally there were baby zombies. I think the more appropriate thing is, like, will there be an animation of kicking, sound effect for kicking baby SCP-3199? Since those little guys are technically in the game. But I think, SCP-5K has had a very long development cycle. At one point, there was like a baby zombie, but I don't know. Maybe it's still in the game. Maybe it isn't. It is.
I have not seen them around. I think I do feel like I remember seeing the scaled down zombies. But I don't think they're still around. I've not seen them anyway. Only in classic survival. Oh gosh.
Oh, here's also another one from Da Point Kid. If I could also ask one more thing, how would you say working with sound/music in Unreal Engine is? Any major issues you have with it?
I mean, the nice thing is that something that we're doing is, because we're using Fmod, we're using a middleware, it's sort of agnostic a little bit, depending, like, between working in Unreal Engine versus Unity. The way that we implement is technically the same, because it all happens in Fmod, and then the only difference, the major difference, is the actual, like, coding, the actual code that says to trigger sound effects and stuff in the engine. And there's some differences between Unity and Unreal Engine, but I'm comparing those two right now. Obviously, you can write your own custom integrations, and there's Godot, and I don't want to take away from those engines, but specifically Unreal Engine and Unity. Obviously, coding language is different, but the base, like the implementation that Fmod provides with their software, is relatively similar. So that's a pretty equal starting point between the both of them, and then the rest is sort of just whatever you build on top of it custom. So like the music system that we have spatial audio systems that were introduced in 0.17, room-based audio. Some of this stuff, sure, might be easier to write in Unity, but is perfectly possible in Unreal Engine. So in terms of the engine causing issues, we've not had that.
Another interesting question from Ned JJJ asks, will we ever get some type of combat music in the main campaign in Area 12?
Oh my god, yes. So this was all of these little things. Like there was point 15 was the first attempt into dynamic music, and point 16 did some more where we like scored a whole level. And then point 17 with the testing chambers, that was like, okay, can we write like a whole score that can adapt to the gameplay for everything? And it worked out pretty well. So it's all these little steps that lead up to ultimately, yes, the main campaign is going to need a lot more music. I'm not saying it's going to need music, because the state that it's currently in, there's some music, but there's really not enough to carry the experience in the way that we want to have it carried to the players, because there's so much emotional value that you have in music, and that's going to really help bring across the concepts and the mood that we want to portray in the main campaign. So absolutely, the campaign is getting its whole like score. It's going to get a score for combat, for moments, horror moments, suspenseful, whatever it is. It's going to have music nonstop, techno pop. That's a quote. Sorry.
Well, I know that initially it was kind of like a little bit of like a Half-Life vibe, where most of the game, or at least initially, not to say anything what you're playing is 100% final, was kind of like just ambient audio with like a few little musical flourishes. But I'm guessing we're going to have a little bit more of a dynamic score as we creep our way towards 1.0.
Yes. And keeping in mind, not that because testing chambers is musically extremely active. There's like always something going on, which really drives the experience. Silence is extremely important. So in the man campaign, it's not going to be like testing chambers where it's just stuff all the time. There's going to be, there's going to be breathers. There's going to be more pinpoint moments because we have a lot more control over it.
Ooh, Jekyll has a really interesting question. Are there dedicated score types for each faction, like GOC and UIU have their own definitive music, but unique only to them? That's interesting, because, yeah,
yes.
there are like 3 distinctive factions at this point. What is the D-Class theme? What is the GOC theme? What is the UIU theme?
There's, that's something that's huge right now that's like I can't talk too much about, because it's happening behind the scenes right now, that there's a lot of digging into musical themes and leitmotifs and establishing them early, because we have a lot of game to score. So we want to do it with the most clarity we can. So right now, a lot of focus is on writing themes, which means writing themes for these factions, writing themes for certain characters, certain concepts even. And it's not just developing unique themes for each of them. Sometimes there's interplay between them even, where one theme might reference another because we want to have them conceptually linked in some way.
Oh, well, maybe you can't say exactly. They're a work in progress. But I guess here's a little playful question. It's the end of the year. Everyone's getting their, this is your 2025. This is how much hours you were soaked up in this app of YouTube or Spotify. If you had to guess, what do you think the top 5 artist playlists are for the GOC, UIU, and D-Class? What would be coming up in their 2025 Spotify playlist?
Oh, that's unfair, because I don't listen to Spotify.
Don't you have to?
I don't even have a Spotify rap. I mean, yeah, well, no, of course, I listen to music, but I'm one of those crazy people that will buy the song and then have that one file as a local thing in my playlist locally. I don't like, some people I can like really grab a whole artist, and sometimes I do that. Sometimes everything an artist does is just take everything. This is all awesome. And sometimes I'm just like, I'm very specific in terms of that. But for this score anyway, I mean, the songs with lyrics are less something that you might listen to in research. More like, I think that's something that's going to be interesting perhaps when I get into the actual inspirations for some of the testing chamber music, sort of where some of these things come from, which is other games, music in the classical sort of canon. So yeah, no, that's gonna have to be my answer. You're not gonna get anything else
All
out of me
right,
for
so
that.
so you can't tell us if UIU loves Kendrick Lamar or in D class they're listening to some T Swift.
I will just say I love Kendrick Lamar. Make of that what you will.
Whatchamacallit, not like us. Chapter 2 confirmed. There you go. You have it.
Drake is gonna be in the game, and Kendrick Lamar is going to destroy him again. So, no, it's fantastic.
There's a controversial SCP that was like the ghost of Tupac Shakur. It was written by a very controversial screenwriter, Max Landis. So, who knows? Maybe Drake will find his way into the SCP canon. You never know. But all right, so I think we've gotten ourselves warmed up. Are you ready to take us into these musical melodies and break down elements of all these different chambers?
You're hyping me up too much. This is just music. Calm down. Yes, I guess. What else? No, I'm just gonna say no. I'm just gonna stop here. Okay, thanks everybody for coming. No. Yeah. How about Dave? Does he have a score? Maybe. Okay. Yeah, I mean, let's see. I don't know. I'm going to try to keep myself a little bit brief because I don't want to be seen to be yapping too much. But
that's the point here.
This is my
like
specialty.
This is your special podcast.
This is my podcast.
This is your tiny desk concert on NPR.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. Well, starting out, first chamber, we got Campground. Campground was fun. It was one of the first ones that I started writing. It was, I think the first ones that I started writing were Campground and perhaps Bunker. And then some other ones, I think Aquarium was also one of the firsts, at least the intro. But Campground was sort of the proof of concept because that's the first chamber that you load into. And so it was just like, okay, what's possible here? And ended up going with a very literal sort of interpretation of the chamber distilled down. Which is most of the instruments that you hear are actual just like tree trunks and branches that were recorded out in the woods in a beautiful sample library. So there's a little bit of strings like going on just to set the horror atmosphere mood. Second, there we go. That's the intro. Then it jumps over here into the out of combat music. Just has sort of these little clattery noises. And as soon as we jump into combat, it's immediately into just wood percussion. So this is what it sounds like without the bass audio. Again, I mentioned this earlier. For all of the chambers have a bass layer, which is this. And then for mid and for high. So when you're hearing it in the game, you're hearing everything mixed together. But here I can just isolate things. So we can just be like, here's the mid layer for the combat.
What are those like drums?
It's literally just wood in the forest. It's just like when it says over here, the track names, tree trunks, there's low trunks, there's sticks. These are all just like tree trunks and stuff played with sticks.
Ooh.
And each of them has their own little nice character, solo roots. Sticks. Okay, it's auto-saving for a second. Can't course. Whenever my icon turns into, there we go. And there's branches. Just tree branches with the leaves still on and just shaking them. And that becomes what, I mean, felt fitting for the campground, given we're surrounded by trees.
Feels very Bigfoot core, if I do say so myself.
Bigfoot core is a nice way to describe it. Isn't there like, no, there was, is there? Does anyone know? My brain is telling me that there's a Sasquatch like wooden cutout in the trees somewhere. Or is that just Slender Man? Because I know there's Slender Man.
There's Arlie. There's lots of Arlie in the.
There's lots of Arlie. Arlie is life.
I love Arlie. There was talks internally about like, oh, we should like release him to the wild. Let people meme on him and a little bit more. Let him spread. But you never know what happens when the internet gets control of something.
I know what you're talking about, and I think maybe we made the right decision. Perhaps the server isn't ready for the true Arlie yet.
I'm pro, release the Arlie cut. But I could see it would be a very, very dangerous thing potentially.
Pro is Arlie. 173 is Arlie. The Arlie cut.
Whatchamacallit, Andrew Guana asks, by the way, what do you think of Death Stranding 1 and 2 and what aspects that fits into the SCP universe? A little bit of an
I haven't personally played them, so I can't comment, sadly.
Well,
I'm sorry.
I will say that, they're very weird games. I played a little bit of
very
the first
weird
one.
Games.
I need to get further into them, but they are kind of very SCP-like in the sense that, you spend half the game hiding from invisible tether monsters that drag you into, tar battles with weird trans-dimensional monsters that are, manifestations of the afterlife. So, honestly, half of Death Stranding feels like SCP lore. And a little
Arlie
bit
is banned from E621. Oh my gosh. Don't even.
A little
Arlie
bit
is a child.
Another little bit of a question. What are your thoughts on hex core?
What is hex core? I saw that question and I really just desperately have to
I
Google
thought
it.
I was hoping you knew. No, I thought it was like hex core is like a musical movement.
I looked up hex core and it says it's the overarching antagonist of Arcane. Spoilers.
Nej has an interesting question. Is there any specific thing you have to think about when composing combat music and scary music?
Ooh. Mm-hmm. Combat and scary music. I mean, obviously very different from another, although they can interplay. When you write them, it's because there's the nice thing about scary music, at least, is that you really have the ultimate freedom, limited primarily by what your director wants. So what your musical styling is, which also sort of plays into what the director wants. So there's some games that you rely purely on synthetic material, weird drones and stuff like that. And then you might jump to a game like Until Dawn, for example, which has a hugely orchestral score, because that was the approach of the creatives there. And you can just sort of, I remember Jason Graves, composer, talking about how fun it was just to kind of go ham with scary music and an orchestra and interweaving that with melodic material, a thematic melodic material. So that's fun. Combat, I mean, combat is a fun one because the big difficulty is that we try to address with this dynamic system is that if you have one intensity level, it can get boring quickly if there's like a lot of low points, which can happen in a game like ours where you're fighting some enemies and then there's a little bit of a break and then you're fighting more. So if the combat music is just big intensity the whole time, it's gonna get grating. So you have to consider, okay, can we write different sections that have different levels of intensity to fit the combat? And then you can sort of have fun exploring different ideas depending on what the exact context of the battle is. So in our game, it's gunfight. It's relatively random. Other games where things might be like timed to a rhythm or something, or a boss might be timed to a rhythm, the music can interplay with that and actually give you gameplay clues just by you listening to the music, because it like anticipates a moment that's going to happen. And so if you're paying attention to the music, you will know of something before it like actually happens or visually happens, perhaps. So it's really fun.
Well, it's interesting to hear that those are the kind of like inspiration and kind of how you build scary tracks. But I'm curious about those. Random question: are you a weeb by any chance?
Am I a weeb by any chance?
Do you partake in the animes?
Oh, I thought you were like genuinely. I had not heard that question phrased in that way before. I don't watch a lot of anime. I've seen a couple, but I don't watch a lot of
so
them.
you have a wider path. I guess the only reason I bring it back up is there's like this famous track from One Piece, the Drums of Liberation, and the stick banging kind of reminded me of that. So I was just kind of curious if that might have been an inspiration. But I'm guessing no.
In this case, no. Perhaps in the future, now that you brought it up, who knows?
So what are we looking
composers,
at here in all the red?
Yes, this one is Treehouse, which I think is the next chamber. This is the one that I've seen the most people like comment on, and this one was one of the last ones to be composed because Treehouse is sort of weird in the sense that it's. I mean, yeah, it's just what is like every other chamber has some sort of theming, and this one really doesn't. It kind of it's almost like box 40, a little bit like you've got a fortification of some kind, but that's sort of where it stops. So when I talked to Trey about this, he was just like, well, maybe you could like do something that's a bit more retro-y or something, which I felt was going a bit too far. But so it ends up being one of the most jank ones out of all of them. By just having this immediately jumping all the way into like wooden percussion, marimbas, very melodic. So there's all sorts of ensembles going on here.
That's interesting. I would not expect marambas and kind of have like a little bit of a festival flair for a treehouse.
Yeah, it's. I was just trying to think. Like, I don't know. I'm having fun dorting around in a big fortification made of wood, and that just directly sort of, I don't know why it outpoured as this, which is just sort of a wild thing of also one of the most musical ones, especially in the latter half, because there's a few pieces of music that we have in this where we have a first section and the second section basically repeats, whereas this one has two unique statements. So we got the and then it goes into
it's very playful. It feels like it's like like a lost song from Donkey Kong or like a platform from the N64 era.
Yes,
almost.
That was definitely what the big idea ended up being, where it's like, well, Donkey Kong-ish, that sort of thing, platforming, and that sort of, but done with sort of orchestral palette instead of we could have whipped out some retro synths. But that might have been, it would have been fun actually in retrospect. Maybe we'll do that in the future. Who knows? But yeah, so we've got, and as I scroll through this, I know I'm going a bit fast, but you can sort of see the differences between the different layers. So we've got the low combat layer, which is mostly just the percussion. And then you have the mid combat layer, which adds some woodwinds. Just
Ooh, a little bit of a trombone there.
It's a contrabassoon, actually, which is a big old thing. bassoon, but like a whole octave lower. And then we've got actually both of them together for the high intensity layer. There's this. And then this melody that's going on in the marimba. And it's auto-saving. Either way, that melody that's going on in the marimba and the wooden percussion is then doubled by the strings up here. And that just comes together to bring this whole...
Ooh. You know, it kind of reminds me of, have you ever heard of the Tuba Night meme?
Remind me. I feel like I might have.
So it was like this, from a couple of years back, like some kids were screwing around in band class, just making themselves look like, basically like RPG boss battles. I'll post the image. Yeah, yeah. So and the people would make themes for these. So every time I hear tuba nowadays, I would just think of like all these like So there's the tuba wizard, tuba heavy cannon.
But that would be awesome though. Hang on, like write a piece for like 6 solo tubas, and then that's the tuba wizard theme. I mean, that sounds. I'd love to do that. That sounds so funny.
It just kind of became this like very wholesome meme. If you go on YouTube, you could definitely find like whole tracks. Like, this is the tuba boss battle.
I'm just bringing it up on my screen so people can see it on the stream. Oh my gosh. This is the beauty. Like, I love it. This is the best thing I've ever seen.
It's the perfect thing. Like, if you had like, I don't know, $600 for all of the, it'd be great to like wander around as a convention like that. But yeah, whenever I hear like anything that's tuba related, I'm kind of like, oh man, summon the tuba wizard, summon the tuba soldier.
There's some tuba in this, so we can hear those parts. But yeah, so that's Treehouse, playful. I love that you brought up Donkey Kong because it just unlocked the thing in my head. Like, yeah, that's exactly what it was.
I'm glad to hear I was on the money.
What was the next chamber after Treehouse? Is it Manor? I think.
That is a good question that I should know.
I should have brought up the wiki page for the testing chambers. That would have been better. Worsley? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's Manor. SCP-5K wiki. There you go. I don't remember. Oh, test chambers. Yeah, Worsley. Okay. Manor. Manor was interesting. Yes, use the wiki. When it was arted, because it was arted extremely early, actually.
Oh, I think it's the jungle. So, the jungle is the is that the second chamber? The jungle jinx.
Jungle jinx is the treehouse. Yes, that's what we just heard. Oh,
okay, my bad. I got confused for some reason. I thought that the treehouse was the cabin in the woods in the first one. But so all right, after jungle jinx, it is Worsley.
Also, just not a question on SCP-5K, but a question that's been on my mind. What are your opinions on Joel Nielsen's Zen soundtrack? Oh, it's so good. I mean, you gotta give credit to the whole game, obviously. Just because they decided, because Zen was the worst part of Half-Life 1. Well, On a Rail exists, but Zen is worse. And so what they turned it into, and I mean, Joel's, I feel bad calling him by his first name because I don't know him. But his music in that entire game, especially in Zen, it's just so fantastic, especially when you put it in conjunction, like not conjunction, comparison to the original, which I don't know how much. It had a couple of tracks. Yeah. But it's sick. It's awesome. Okay, Manor. Manor was arted early. And so My brain died. So this was arted early, and there were some suggestions that were like, why is on a rail so gosh darn long? I know. It was kind of there were some ideas thrown around of like sort of distorted record player music, which, oh gosh, like the immediate inspiration that came to mind was sort of something you might hear in one of like gosh, now I'm forgetting his name, Backrooms and The Oldest View, Kane Pixels, something you might hear in Kane Pixels sort of videos. Or perhaps more specifically, there is this beautiful collection of music called, I think it's Everywhere at the End of Time, by The Caretaker, which is a big journey into dementia through music, which uses all of these degraded record, era pieces of music, and it's done so expertly that it was like, we should do that, but it was really difficult to channel. So it sort of ended up being its own little beast. Trey at one point said that it reminds him of music in like an old mall, which I'll take. I'll take that. That's fine. That works for me. It definitely, with just a couple of experiments on this, because we had sort of deadlines. It wasn't that we were able to take a huge amount of time for each of these chambers. It was like kind of you have to write something, and at some point it has to stick, and you just have to go with it. So even through just experimenting a little bit on the music and manner, very quickly realizing just how complicated those degraded albums are. But so that's how we end up here, which doesn't have many orchestral layers. Most of it happens down here in some audio layers, where I just basically went to a collection of music that I had personally recorded. So I'd recorded a few orchestras and choirs at some point, and I just sort of took snippets and saw like, what can I just take from this and throw through some vinyl emulation and bend and make it sound sort of interesting.
What is vinyl emulation?
So it's basically it's an effect that you can put on audio to make it sound as though you're playing it from a record, and you can determine how old the record is and how much it wavers and how much noise there is in the signal and stuff. And that's how so here is the opening to Manor.
And random question, is the dog barking? I'm watching a family dog right now. It's not too disruptive, is it?
I'm not hearing it.
Okay, good, fantastic. As long as it's not disrupting. He's one of those little yappy dogs where it's like you do everything he wants, but like there's some third thing that he won't tell you what he wants. I fed him. I gave him water. I took him out. I'm guessing maybe he wants to pee again. But hey, as long as no one else is being annoyed by it.
But yeah, so you've got this string sample here, which if you remove all of the effects from it, it just it's just a sample of a string section playing a passage from a piece of music that I think this is one of the movements from what's the name of the piece? The Armed Man, A Mass for Peace by Carl Jenkins. This is one of the later, I think it's Now the Guns Have Stopped. I think the opening passage to that. It's basically that little bit dragged out a bunch to make it pitched lower, and then run through a bunch of effects to make it sound more old and distant. And the same thing done down here with like sort of a cello phrase. Just it serves basically as like a bass drone. Not not a bass drum, but like a sort of low, like Brahm almost. What do you call those? Inception effects. And then that carries through and is basically augmented by having different sort of piano parts and mellotron parts. Mellotron being an instrument that is literally tape based. You have a keyboard, and each of the individual keys on the keyboard, when you press it, it will start playing one string of tape that has that one note recorded onto it. And it was one of the very first like samplers that was widely available. So you've definitely heard a mellotron at some point in your life. If you've ever heard Wonderwall, you've heard a mellotron. Like it was everywhere. Incredible piece of technology. And so that just sort of comes together here at the end with everything to have. What is Wonderwall?
What is Wonderwall?
Wonderwall by Oasis. Come on.
Oh, okay, never mind. I thought it was like some sort of piece of software. I thought it was like, oh,
No.
We had the Wonderwall amplifier, and that makes
Today is gonna be the.
Good.
Can't say it. I can't say the rest of it. Copyright. But yeah, so that's what ends up happening at the back here, which is just sort of this piano, which is also filtered through a bunch of things. Same with the mellotron. And for the high intensity layer, it is joined by a little bit of string section up here. Just. Which is just sort of, there's the strings just driving the action, and then the violins on top. Just outlining the melody, which is played by the strings and the piano down below. These string stabs are also kind of interesting because they're augmented by a low bassoon ensemble. So you really get that bwam effect. But it also sort of sits nice in the mix, so.
Everyone likes the bwam. Was it Hans Zimmer or Christopher Nolan who made like everyone loved bwam?
It was definitely the pair of them. The one that everyone quotes from Inception was actually not written by Hans Zimmer, because that was from a trailer that was written by someone else. But there's still plenty of Brahms. It sounds like I'm saying the name of a composer, Brahms. Brahms. There's still plenty of those in Inception itself. So, yeah. You don't hear them much. Oh, no, you still hear them sometimes. They have their use. But they're not quite as ubiquitous. Gosh, but yeah, so that's Manor. What was after Manor? Well, actually, Manor also serves as, sometimes it's replaced by what we internally call Siege House, I think. Because that's the new map that was added in 0.17.1, Sloth's Pit. This one was written with a bit of time pressure, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. That's okay. This sort of goes to reveal some of the collaboration that still happens behind the scenes. Like a lot of this is parts that I've written out in my software here. But so Siege House is one of those that down here I have stems that were written by Vinny. And he basically sent them as a demo at one point. I was like, okay, there's stuff here that I like, so let's use it. And so you can definitely get out here in the out of combat, sort of these ambient drones. I love the siren that he did, which I think happens in the intro. I don't know. I just love that because there was so much talk about that map in terms of the actual soundscape being in sort of an emergency situation. And there's police sirens in the ambience. So when you're walking around in the map, you can hear police sirens all around you. There's the emergency radio broadcast you can hear at the truck. So having some sort of element of sirens in the music, I think, was a very cool idea. And then the rest of it just sort of tried to channel almost a little bit parody perhaps what you might be in like old zombie games or something like that, where it's like this combination of strings and piano. So we've just got this horribly frantic piano just. And that's then doubled up here. Not doubled, but it's augmented by strings. And that just builds up as you increase intensity.
Ooh,
Those Porcelli.
very classically horror.
Yes. This is one that makes use of a lot of effects. Like some of the other music pieces don't make use of quite so many orchestral effects, whereas this one sort of ends up leaning into it quite a lot. So we've got this. That's just noise, and this is mostly just noise, and it comes together over this, at this point, 3 pianos just going. So you get this mess of. It was fun. And then the quieter parts, there's some really fun like slides that the strings do down here. You can see how like compositionally you take this motif and then you, for the hiding layer where you're just sort of, you're just fresh out of combat, you're just trying to hide from them, you use the same motif but sort of broken down a bit. So it's not quite as frequent. It's, the musical identity is still there.
Almost kind of like a. Am I detecting a little bit of Jaws? Yeah.
Quite potentially. I mean, the low piano is a favorite of very like traditional orchestral composers for film or game, being like, I need it to be scary. What do I do? Low piano, and just. What was next after Matter? Oh, I guess I could mention Tiamat, which we internally called Error. Error was interesting because it's not a traditional chamber. And so the actual chamber that you walk into doesn't have any music at all. And then when you come back, it had to be a fake out in the sense that we're just hearing the Z chamber music. It's totally normal. Everything's fine. So that's why the music in Error is just this, but cut down a bit so it fits within the structural framework of how the chamber music works. And then those who are attentive will notice that when you start like walking next to where you look to the left and you can see all the mannequins and you're like, wait, hang on, that's wrong. That's when we switch to like a glitchier version of, where it's just. Or it's just repeating and just jumping. It's just kind of. And then I think I saw this question earlier in the chat, something about Tom Lehrer. Tom Lehrer was definitely for Trey a huge inspiration in terms of what the tone of the testing chambers overall was. And so he very early on, working in this chamber, brought up the idea of what if we use Tom Lehrer's songs, because he passed away a little while ago, and before he passed away, he released all of his musical material into the public domain. So you can listen to it, you can download it, you can do things with it, whatever you want. And so, I mean, we had already had Tom Lehrer's music in one of the teasers or trailers. Yes, and so this was just another way of paying respect to this, icon.
In the iconic update 1.7, I didn't know he released all his music to the public domain.
Yeah, you can go online and you can, on his website, you can you can punch in a song and it's going to show you like 5 different versions, like including the studio recording or live performance or another live performance, and you can listen to all of it for free, which is amazing. That because perhaps not to comment too much about copyright in the modern age, but if he hadn't done that, what might have happened is that he would have died, and then his music would have been inaccessible for 70 plus years.
That's amazing. Do you know if that was something he had in his will?
I don't remember. I think it might have been something that he did before he passed, so I don't think it was in his will, but I might be mistaken. Fact check me on it. Anyone is welcome to.
Tom King, right?
No, Tom Lehrer.
Tom Lehrer. Oh, that's
just funny because that's the German word for teacher, and he was a teacher. Okay, well, moving on. I think.
Like to determine that. But what is the next
chamber?
Next chamber.
I love this one. This one's like perhaps my favorite for mostly personal reasons. It's Chem Plant. So immediately very industrial vibes, and one of my absolute favorite games that I've played recently that had to do with industrial infrastructure and stuff like that is a game called Infra, and I can only recommend playing it. It's really fun. But Infra to me also had an amazing soundtrack. I thought it wasn't a dynamic soundtrack like what we're doing. It's kind of more like what we might have described earlier, where you're like going through the game and at some point music starts and then the music goes away and then you're just in the environment. But when the music comes in, it is beautiful. So some of that might have been challenged to this, and there's actually a musical reference to Infra's soundtrack in Chemplant's music. But so being sort of an industrial inspired, immediately we sort of jump in with all sorts of like groaning and feedback noises. And the first time that we're prominently using synthesizers in the soundtrack for the testing chambers. So you get this.
Ooh.
So that's the intro, and then you've got all these sort of metal, like feedback, bendy, sort of brooding. You might think of like weird saws or something like that. That's when you're out of combat. Once you get into enemies spawning and starting to chase you. That intensity grows a bit. And then it just jumps into full fun combat music with it grows into this.
A little bit of a tactical stealth action.
And then it grows into the highest possible form. Oh, and an inspiration I forgot to mention, obviously, Chernobyl. Chernobyl, the HBO miniseries from 2019. Also amazing music. In fact, all sourced, in case you didn't know, all of the music was completely made from manipulated samples of recordings of an active nuclear power plant, which just makes it so cool.
Oh, really? That's a little tidbit I did not know, that it was all samples.
It's really fun. Yeah, no, Chernobyl has an amazing soundtrack, and so some of that flowed into this, obviously, with some of these sort of bending sounds. And then I mentioned the musical reference to Infra, which is relatively simple, and no one's really going to catch up on it. But cellos. There's a piece of music in Infra which has that same sort of rhythm, ba-bum, ba-bum. And it's very action-y, also taking place in a big industrial space, so it felt appropriate to make a little reference to it, which I think is the joy of any composer. Being able to write new music, but put in little nods to things that might have inspired you in some points. So I just love this one. Weirdly, also the space, I didn't mean for this to happen, but if anyone has played the I'm on observation duty games, in the final hour, there's some music that happens that has a similar sort of sound in it, and that was completely unintentional. But I like it. It's fun.
In the past like year, have you played any games with soundtracks that really kind of like stuck with you?
I mean, all the time. Obviously, Infra. Love that soundtrack. Abzu is beautiful. I cannot stop talking about Abzu. Austin Wintory, composer, also wrote music for Assassin's Creed and Journey and a bunch of other games. He's just fantastic. And his musical styles, and I will probably make mention of him a little later because Aquarium might have also been slightly inspired by some of his work, perhaps not as directly as this, but
I've not heard of
um,
Abzu. Is that kind of like a? Well, then again, there's so many PC games; it's almost impossible to keep track of all of them.
that's very true.
It's just like, you know, and then like suddenly Arc Raiders, everyone's playing Arc Raiders. Oh my God, Arc Raiders! But I guess I'm looking it up. Abzu's been around for a while.
Hmm. It's hard to describe the game, but it's very atmospheric. It takes place within the ocean. And the music just sort of really leans into it. Like, I don't know, I don't think I can find a piece of music that more accurately describes the experience of being in the ocean than Abzu's soundtrack. So I highly recommend that. I think I might have, this is probably the 15th time I've mentioned it because I just love it so much. Besides that, I love soundtracks of like little games. Like Stanley Parable has a beautiful soundtrack. Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe as well. I love The Sims 3. That's probably the one that's most out of left field right now in terms of everything. Given that I'm sitting here and it's like, here's the music for a horror tactical horror game, and one of my favorite soundtracks is The Sims 3.
What makes the Sims
What can you do?
3 soundtrack? Because I never, when I think of the Sims, I never think about its music.
It's just vibes. It's just good vibes. It's just so nice. No, you have to listen to it. It's just such good vibes. Like if you know, give it a try. What's after Campland? I'm pretty sure it's Bunker. Yes, Last Stand of Olsen. This one was another one that was composed relatively early as a test to see how things worked. And I think the inspiration is immediately sort of, or at least where it came from is relatively clear. I mean, just very heavy-handed, straight into like the sort of percussion-driven military march sort of music, and that's just what carries this entire. Like the percussion never stops, even in the out-of-combat situation where you might be like, well, you don't want percussion to have a big role because we don't want them to think, we don't want players to think that there's combat going on right now, but it works, and it just makes sense in the environment. And so into gameplay, it's just that, but big. So
got some final boss music coming on here.
It's probably the biggest out of all of the, like, perhaps the only one that might challenge it is theater. Theater is a little bit bigger than this one in terms of how massive the scale feels. Everything else is sort of trying to keep a little bit condensed. So we have like virtual here. We have a huge orchestra at our disposal, but everything sort of limits itself to a couple of colors and doesn't really make use of the entire orchestra at once, because it's just a bit too bombastic for the other chambers. But bunker and theater, they just had to lean into it. They are so massive in what they try to portray tonally and what they represent that you just had to. So we've got these different musical, like Ellen's got the percussion. Then that's augmented with woodwinds. This one's relatively basic. It's just the brass is surprisingly conservative for the bunker.
Just out of curiosity, when you were composing the bunker theme, were you playing Call of Duty Zombies, or at least when I was seeing playthroughs of that the thick vibe I got, like, oh boys, we're back in 2009 or 2010. We're hyped up on Mountain Dew on Xbox Live. It's time to grind some zombies.
It was definitely something that I had in my head, was the sort of classic era of Call of Duty or Battlefield. Call of Duty specifically, had an incredible orchestral soundtrack. I just have to look it up again so I don't say something stupid. But I'm pretty sure it's from 2003 with music by Michael Giacchino, of all people. And I adore Michael Giacchino. He's an amazing composer. I love his work in the sort of serious orchestral canon, as well as his more jazzy sort of. I just recently watched Zootopia 2, and his soundtrack for that is incredible. But so is the soundtrack for Call of Duty. And so this was trying to channel that, definitely. It's nowhere close to, obviously, what he might write. It's not trying to channel Michael Giacchino specifically, but that sort of emotion that you get from one of those classic games with a very serious orchestral soundtrack. So you get all of these. Full string orchestra for the first time. And that all combines into this massive thing. I enjoyed writing the hiding layer because you've got this motif of bum bum ba da da dum, and just having that in the woodwinds just on top of. I enjoyed it. I don't think people use woodwinds enough. I love woodwinds. They get a bit of a bad rep sometimes because they're immediately associated with like whimsy. But no, I love them. And I think in this case, they worked out pretty well.
It's a very impressive amount of music that is composed for the update. If you had to guess, between all the different variations, how many different individual tracks are there altogether for the core 10 testing chambers that .17 came out with?
I'm pretty sure we put this in the release notes. I think I basically summed everything together. I took out some duplicates. But it came down to, I'm pretty sure it was an hour.
Ooh.
I think. It depends. Obviously, it's a bit difficult to put an exact number on something that is dynamic, because depending on who's playing and how long they're playing for, they might experience more or less of the music. But in this case, it's a relatively simple calculation of just putting everything together, because everyone's bound to hear one of these things, one of these layers at least once. So linearly, that came about to an hour of music. Now that makes it perhaps sound a bit more impressive than it is. because some of these things are literally just intensity differences. So it's not like each of these sections is a completely new piece of music. So in that sense, you might be able to subtract it a bit more and say, oh, well, it's really just 30 minutes of music or something like that. But if you want to just go straight by files, it's about an hour.
It's a good chunk of music. It's very impressive.
Not unusual for a game. Games can have many, many hours of music. It's like if you think a feature film might have about an hour of music. So if you want to, again, you can have different opinions on this, and I don't even truly believe what I'm saying right now, but you could say, in theory, that the testing chambers has as much music as a feature film.
Yeah, I don't think that's an app. And the trailers in 17 or the chambers in 17.1, they all had their own unique individual scores too, right?
Well, yeah, Siege House did. I think we called it internal. We called it Water Splash, which is an aquarium alternate that just used the same score as Aquarium, and then Air obviously used Tumblr songs. Someone tell me if they answer on stage. When are we getting any OST release? I want to have those tasty flaks on my phone. Grr, please release OST as flak. It's gonna be flak. I love flak. You gotta have flak. OST release. I saw Trey give an answer on this recently. I'm not in charge of directly specifying when things get released, although I'm involved, because you can't just release what's here because it just doesn't work. So when we release an OST, because we're gonna take these separate sections of music and then put them together in some linear composition that you can listen to that has some better transitions between them, and it's not just crossfading like it does in Fmod, just to make it more interesting as music to listen to. Trey said that that's going to happen when all of the testing chambers are done, which who knows how long away that is. So
infinite testing chambers.
But it will be released.
What's it called? SCP 5K delayed until 2030 because there must be 10, 20, 40 new testing chambers. That's all we're going to do until there's 100 testing chambers. The game's not done yet. None of that is happening.
Oh my gosh!
But it's fun to taunt. Can you imagine that if we just everyone went insane, and then we just announced that this is the game. It's just we're just going to make as many testing chambers into infinity forever.
I feel like that's something that from what I've noticed, that's something that some people have been worried about, which is something that Trey and Albie talked about the last time that they did a stream. Where they just addressed some of those concerns, where some people were like, well, is this what you guys are doing exclusively now? And it's not, but it was important to what the game is going to be. So,
and it gives you guys a fun mode to enjoy more gameplay. I don't know. I come from like the old school era of games, so like the more stuff you had, the better. So I always love it when games have more, the more modes, the better, the more gameplay, the more unique stuff. I mean, I don't know, any Smiling Friends fans here? For, the most, there was like a recent episode, they like said, they had the evil, crazy boss guy, and he says, hey, do you like Super Monkey Ball? I love Super Monkey Ball. That was a very extended way of just bringing up Super Monkey Ball, if anyone here has ever played it. And Super Monkey Ball had like a billion puzzles. It also had the multiplayer mode, which was a lot of fun, and a bunch of other stuff, and a racing game. So I love games. It doesn't mean we're going to have a kart racer, but... sorry for that tangent. I just had to go.
Okay.
That was my way of thinking that the Discover program is great.
How was the Krios voice effect done? I'm presuming that you're talking specifically about the one that occurs in Tiamat. Yes. Okay. That one's interesting. Because. So that's me doing the voice, and when I initially started doing the voice, I would breathe in and sort of talk while breathing in, which gives you, I don't know if my microphone's going to be big.
Did you
Like
do
Discord
the?
might be.
I didn't know you did the Krios voice.
I did the Krios voice. The Arlie voice is someone else. That's not me. Can't take credit for that. But Krios, I ended up providing the voice for that. Who knows if that's going to stay? And so when it started, I just sort of I would sort of speak like, "Hello, I am here to say hi to your face." And so just I don't know how to describe it. It's just sort of breathing in and talking while you're breathing in, and just that gives you the sort of. And if you just do the right inflections, you can sort of sound like a speak and spell, basically. So it's this hello, 1 + 1 = 2. Why did you hit me? So that. And then eventually, through testing out different plugins, I actually found something that can directly, like, it. You just speak into it, and it immediately turns that. I don't know how it does it, but it basically emulates what you say as a speak and spell sort of device. And so that's what ended up being the final effect that happens. So I stopped doing my breathing and I'm just talking normally, but I'm still doing just fucked up inflection. And then that's routed through some effects that make it sound like a speak and spell. And specifically in Tiamat, that was just run through a bunch of reverb and some a doubler that would double the voice an octave lower to give it a lot of bass to make it sound bigger than it is. Like the actual effect just by itself, that's what the questions kiosk, that's what that sounds like. But then in Tiamat, the chamber, it's just made a bit bigger to give it some more power in the moment.
That you sounded fantastic doing the voice. Did you have to do any modulator, or was that just entirely your performance we just heard a minute ago?
I mean, no. Like I said, it's when I'm reading the Krios lines now. I might just be like, I don't know, testing Krios, shit, fuck, I don't know what to say. And then that's run through some modulation that makes it sound like a speak and spell. And then that's how it turns out. Credits have both you and Bishop credited as Krios.aic. Why is that? A good question.
Is that maybe a spoiler question?
I hope everyone likes the new credits. I hope everyone likes the new credits, by the way, because those were fun. I got to have a hand in that, cleaning up the credits a bit. So that was very nice.
But the true credits will not be available until the game is completed. But still, the work goes on.
What was next after Bunker? Pretty sure it was Hometown. Yes. No, it wasn't. It's Rabbit Run. 4 seasons. Rabbit Run was a bit weird. You might have suspected, perhaps, like, if you know anything about classical music, you might have been like, oh, 4 seasons, we'll make it like Vivaldi. But I didn't end up going that direction. Instead, this is... Because what was proposed at one point was having some music, like this was early in the development process, having music in this chamber that's a little bit like, just like Flight of the Bumblebee-esque, where it's just like, kind of almost like a little bit comical and frantic, a little bit absurd. And so that eventually distilled into what is in there now, which is the intro.
What is that?
And then in the... Oh, this? The bass layer?
Yeah.
So... That noise?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yep.
Yeah. That's That's basically knocking on the wooden frame of piano and routing that through some delay effects. But that's it's just like knocking your fist on a piano, the wooden outside of it. So that's how that happens. But yeah, Rabbit Run. There's the Flight of the Bumblebee thing. It's got this just chromatic piano nonsense, but the main statement of the music, it's this piano part and then solo violin and cello. So this is musically a reference to two things. The basic instrumentation in this moment of a piano and a violin and a cello is what is called a piano trio. So if you just look up piano trios, you will find a lot of pieces of music where it's specifically for piano, violin, and cello, and that just has a really interesting, cool sound. But then in terms of composition, what this is channeling is the music of Dmitri Shostakovich, who was a composer in the Soviet Union under Stalin, actually, who in himself, he has an incredible sort of story with his music, because he was a great musician, talented from an early age, but was then subject to heavy censorship by the Soviet government, in the sense that he would write music that's perhaps inspired a bit too much by what is happening in the West, and his name would then be dragged through the mud, and he would lose commissions and whatever, because the administration of the Soviet Union would specifically say that his stuff is not art, it's not real art, it's not good, it's bad. And so in order to, because nowadays we sit here, we have the freedom to just write music in a software. You just buy some sample plugins or whatever, and you can start writing music. If you were an orchestral composer back in the day, typically you'd write the piece of music, and then you'd have to get some orchestra to, you'd have to convince an orchestra to play it. And especially in the Soviet Union, it's state controlled. So they had the state officials would look at the document and review it. Either way, there's a whole bunch of things that you can look into there, but this music is kind of channeling Shostakovich, because he had such an ability to write sort of grotesque and absurd music, and he had such a sense of humor about it, despite what the world was around him. And so there's this beautiful moment in I think it's the fourth movement of the second piano trio that he wrote, where it has this combination, this specific voice spacing that's used in the piano up here. The actual melody in his piece is but so that just has a kind of interesting sound, and that ended up being sort of just the inspiration for this entire section, and just kind of taking that and going wild by combining it with the chromaticism of something like Flight of the Bumblebee, and destroying the cello. Holy crap. I think any cello player who you hand this would cry, and it might not even be playable. But because we're not working with real players in this instance, anything is playable. So on the highest layer of intensity, I mean, the piano is just hammering away on the bottom keys here. It's not even playing anything sensible anymore. But so that was kind of an interesting color that was fun to use for in the out of combat music. This should be pizzicato. I don't know why it's not. No? just taking little fragments of the melody and putting it in sort of a sparser context. That was very fun to do.
And typically when you're kind of like writing the music, how long, like, are you just kind of getting into the flow, or is it more of a strenuous process, kind of like getting these beats out, or do you have an idea of like where you're going?
Sometimes it happens relatively quickly. Other times, it might be days until you really crack an idea. And the worst part is that sometimes you might write something, and then later on in the process, you realize, oh, this is what we're doing, and you just have to go back and start over because you just realize, oh, hang on, this doesn't work the right way. So I think Campground, for example, happened very quickly. This one took a little bit more time. Some of these, I mean, Aquarium, which I'm still going to get to, hopefully quickly, because I'm just realizing we're already at an hour and 30. Jeez. Aquarium, the intro for that was written really early on, but then the rest of it wasn't written until like very late in the process, because it was just sort of stuck and I wasn't exactly sure where to go with it until some arting happened and some additional changes that they had made. And then I was like, okay, I get it now. So that's when that eventually became the final composition. Hometown came together extremely quickly, mostly because this one really wasn't an exercise in writing new stuff. It was just because Hometown is... There was some stuff internally that was referencing certain things, and so it became an interesting idea to just self-reference in the sense that we reuse certain elements of music from Antarctica. So that's basically all that Hometown is. As you can see, there's no orchestral parts for this. So this is all basically music that Venny had written at some point for Antarctica that might have been used, might not have been used. Even down to the intro, you have
good repurposing assets.
Like this bit here. That's exact. This is what you hear when you crest the hill and you see all the grounded ships. And it's just, and it's sat in quite well here. So in this one, it's relatively simple of having some synth stems. And then there's effects over top of that. And percussion. So this one, this one came together extremely, extremely quickly because this one was less trying to come up with new stuff. It's just being like, okay, well, let's treat some of the stuff that we have and might not have used to put it to good use. So that's Hometown. Blazed through that one as I did in writing because I barely did anything. I'll admit that. Theater was fun. Theater, the first thing you hear is...
Would you say theater was the most ambitious just because there were so many layers?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Theater is one of only two chambers that has not like beyond the soundtrack that you hear in your ears when there's combat. Theater is one of the only two levels that has additional music that happens in some case diegetically in the level itself. So theater was fun because theater was interesting because it was both like the stage but also the movies. And it ended up musically leaning much more into the direction of like, this is a movie. The first little bit here is funny in case no one knows what this is, but this is basically the sound of an orchestra tuning. This is like, we're getting ready for the performance and we're just tuning to make sure we're all good. But it's a bit of a reference, at least from my end, to a game from, I think it's from 2005, which is called The Movies, in which you run a movie studio.
Oh, God. I remember that movie, that game. Peter Molyneux. It was like one part Sims and one part like early machinima.
Yes. Oh, beautiful, extremely. I love the game. It's so funny. But there is a cue. I mean, the music in it, first of all, but I think it's. Oh, I'm trying. I gotta Google it just to make sure because I don't want to mess up his name because he's so good. Daniel Pemberton. Daniel Pemberton wrote the music in the movies, which all references some sort of movie or trope or style, and it's so beautifully written. And he's huge now. I mean, he wrote a lot, like a bunch of the Spider-Man ones recently. Interestingly enough, I didn't even realize this. He wrote the music for Steve Jobs from 2015, I think that movie was, or something like that. Which has a sort of plucky synth sound at times, which I was like, oh wait, hang on, that's sort of what ended up happening for Kim Plant. So he might have had his fingers in a few more places in terms of inspiration. But there is a cue in the movies which starts this way, where it's the sound of an orchestra tuning and like a trumpet, like, and some woodwinds blowing over it to be like, oh no, this is not just tuning, this is like a music piece that's about to start. So it was fun referencing that here. Out of Combat is relatively boring because it's just wide sort of string and woodwind chords, again, sort of going through fifths, sort of like they're tuning. Things get interesting when you go into the combat ready state because you get this. And then obviously you jump into combat and it just goes.
The drama builds.
It's relatively simple, obviously, because it just loops and it just kind of goes up slowly. So it like, and it goes back down. But the build on it is quite nice because you start with the strings and sort of a percussion cadence happening over and over in the bottom, and then you get brass in the medium layer. So you, and then in the higher layer you've got even more brass and some woodwinds. And in the hiding layer, the strings go to plucking. Yes. So it's just plucking it gently. So it's not quite so aggressive. I love the brass parts because they're just so nuts.
That's when you summon the tuba warriors.
The horns. There was a version of this that had a bigger sort of horn line where, because this one is relatively simple. There was one that had it more, it was almost like Marvel-esque in terms of how it sounded, but it was a bit too much. I also like these little woodwinds in here, sort of playing in with the strings. You can't even hear them over the strings, but they're there. It's a thought that counts. And obviously the percussion section overall stays the same. It's just it gets louder and also more snare drums. So like in the typical, just the low and I think the mid level, it's 3 different snare drums, and the last one it's 4 different snare drums. Just because you have to have more snares. And that's just... Musically, this is referencing probably mainly the Q asteroid field from Star Wars, episode 5, I think.
Yes, Return of the Empire Strikes Back, right?
Yes, you've got this bum bum ba-da-dum bum bum, and you've got these little drum cadences that happen, which is channeling a bit. At the timpani, I love the timpani giving its little like bum bum. The strings are nowhere near as melodic as Asteroid Field, but that's sort of where this came from. Just trying to be like big movie score, but perhaps a bit more simple. a little bit asteroid field inspired, especially with percussion. But then, yeah, besides the music that we have that plays in your ears, we also have diegetic music that was requested relatively early on by the level designer who made the level. And she was like, "Can we have like a drum roll or something?" And I was like, "Okay." And so you have this whole drum roll that happens in the middle of the level.
Oh, doesn't that play when the kind of like the walls come down?
Yeah, the curtain opens and more enemies come out, and it's just like, whoa, yay! And then there's these two, like at the end when you succeed the level, you get this whole success fanfare. And I'm pretty sure I implemented it. I don't know if it works or not, but there's also like a failure state where it does this. Just this one was fun, just to. This one, I don't know why. It just reminds me of like The Sims again. Like when you like, because if something goes wrong, there's this little ditty that happens. Ba-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-dum, boom. It's like, oh no, the toilet is clogged. I don't know why. It just gives me those vibes.
You put your sim
It's
in
just
the
like these-
in the pool, and then you got rid of the thing, and then they're stuck. Wasn't that the horrible thing that like all the sadistic
Yeah.
little 6-year-olds would do their thing? Did they play the music during
Mhm.
that?
And then this would happen. That's not even in tune anymore at that point. They're not even in time. It's just. So sad. So these were really fun to make. Just to have them as extras in the level. I also really loved, I have to mention this, the voiceover from Cools as the theater director yelling cut and action between the different waves. I think that was a suggestion to do that, and it turned out extremely well, I think.
Ah, I didn't know.
We're
Cool.
almost at the end.
Oh my god, that's what I got to do. I got to somehow like see if I can weasel my way into doing a voice acting cameo.
We could talk about that. Aquarium. This is the second to last one. We're almost done here. Aquarium. Oh, I love Aquarium. Will the unused voice lines for here be used at some point? What were the unused ones? Remind me what the unused ones were. Was it the
I wish I could remind you what the unused ones are. But
and
I'm always
fuck
so,
and like, oh god, you guys are pathetic. I don't know. I don't remember. I think it was those two. Yeah, those. Y'all have fucking scoured through the Fmod files. I gotta be more careful. Maybe. Maybe. I don't know. They worked fun for a little bit, but then it was like, it didn't quite work in the moment, so they were cut. Maybe one day I'll revisit them and make a different decision. Aquarium. Ooh, this one was fun. This intro was written really early on. Just trying to be ocean themed. I don't know why. But this is the tone I think of when I think ocean and water. Some fun things happening here. I mean, there's the whole strings have their little. They also have really high sort of texturing going on.
2 seconds. I'm just gonna see if I can get this dog to stop barking by taking him outside for 2 seconds. Back in a jiffy. Back very quickly.
Okay, well, we're in control of the stream now, so let's have a party. I don't know. Strings. There's a trumpet in here that I forgot about. Plays a single note, but the percussion in this is fun. this score, but then it drops into crap rave. They're fun little things. They're glockenspiel and crotales, which are both like metal instruments. Crotales are little metal discs. And it's kind of fun because these are like, if you hit a crotalis and then slowly put it into a bucket of water, the pitch will bend downwards. So you can have these. Didn't even realize it was done by putting it in a water bucket until I like really looked it up, and I was like, oh wait, that's funny because this is for the water level. But that transpired. I enjoy metallophones very much, so using vibraphones for the out of combat was interesting. And then because anything that's ocean themed has to have harps, just
All right. I see that there's a people think that there was crab rave influence.
we can make that happen. No. So I live. Please.
Honestly,
I'll hide
like
it somewhere.
A crab rave with SCP 98 feels very apt.
That's true. Like someone has to like make a mod for that, right?
If I had my way of like making Afraid do whatever I wanted, I'd put the animation team on that.
I've seen so many. This is tangentially related, but I like little like musical Easter eggs like that. I've seen a bunch of games recently do the like ooh ee ah ee, that one, in a bunch of games where you just get a cat, it just spawns, and then it does the whole ooh ee ah ee meme. It's like, what?
I don't think I've heard of that meme. Is that like the ting tang walla walla bing bang? Or
no, it's like a little cat that spins and then stops spinning and then it spins some more. Like, yeah, there you go. Look in the chat.
Is that like is that like a variation on that meme, the rotating 3D rat that has like Freebird playing under it?
I have no idea the origins of it. I just think it's funny. And I've seen so many videos of cats jumping at the TVs when they're viewing this footage. Either way, Aquarium was fun once it got to writing the string parts, because you've got the harps down here. Nice little chords. And then the percussion, there's glass chimes and like a seashell tree, which is just basically like a big, I think it almost looks like a chandelier. Those really fancy chandeliers, but each of the individual beads is a seashell, and you can comb your hands through it, so you get this.
Seashells make music?
Yeah, apparently.
Ooh.
And then the strings were just fun because they're all muted strings, which was fun. Because there's a difference between playing muted and non-muted strings. So here's some non-muted strings. So that's what that's what it sounds like when you have a violin section play normal. But then you can ask them to put on mutes, where they put like a little plastic piece on the bridge of the violin, and it turns it into like a sweeter, sort of soft sound. So compared to and so just using that as a texture was kind of interesting here, because you have this like, you could have played this normal, but just making it muted, it gives it a softer sort of texture, which I think was very appropriate for this chamber. And so together you just get this. And I like the little.
Very mission briefing. Am I correct, or is that am I off basis?
Say again.
Mission briefing, like FBI.
I guess I wasn't channeling that specifically, but I can see where you're coming from. I mean, these guys down here. It's their whole job just to go up and down over and over. I love being able to use this instrument. It's a combination of harps and vibraphones, and it's one I used previously in SCP Unity. I forget how the melody goes, but it's like. Whatever that theme was. So just getting to use this instrument again is just always nice. Why was the SCP Overlord briefing track in the files? Great question. I don't know.
Might have been some holdover from earlier version of the game.
Yeah,
that'd be my only theory.
If it's from SCP Overlord, I didn't know. I know that there's a briefing track in the files that is unused, and I always like when I joined the project, obviously looking at the FMod project and being like, what is everything? And so I was just like, oh, it's like a briefing track that's not used. Okay, well, it's probably going to be replaced with different music anyway. I'm just going to leave it here for now. So it's from Overlord. Interesting. I had no idea. Thanks for pointing that out. I learned something new. So that's Aquarium, and then that takes us into the last chamber, which musically is probably the most boring in terms of what happens in the score. Where are you, Nursery? There you are. I mean, some more cool things supplied by Vinny. This sort of music box sound that happens. And that just sort of carries through the whole score. The difficulty with Nursery was that we have the stroller that we're pushing that is making music of its own. And so as to not interfere with that. Well, yeah. What? You must have. You've played the chamber, right? Are you admitting right now that you've never made it to Nursery? Ooh, skill issue.
I know.
Okay.
I'm terrible. I'm really bad at the game.
Let me. I'm gonna make a fresh track here real quick because I can import those. I bet.
I need to get.
Oh wait, I can just play them here. What am I talking about? Oh wait, I have to move this over because you can't see certain things. You're not allowed to.
Uh-oh. Future updates.
But yeah, there's. If you push if you push the stroller, it makes this music. It was written by Cools, which I love. So you push it. And that's the music it makes when you push it.
It's got a nice little lullaby, or what are those things?
Yes, for the little baby 3199. The mobile or whatever it's called. The
yeah,
baby,
where it's got like the little metal prongs and like you wind it up and then it plays the music.
Oh yeah. So that's nice, and we can't have what the score is interfere with it too much. Obviously, most of the time, you're not going to be hearing the music necessarily from the stroller because you're going to be walking around killing things. But when you do, the music is a lot more reserved in this section. So this music box and sort of carries through the whole thing. Very stretched. And then on top of that, there is this layer, which is, again, sort of channeling everywhere at the end of time again, by having these really... and on top of that is just really basic string pads.
Bo Bishopo asks, "Where's the mad heavy grunge for the Golem fights?"
It'll happen, probably in some way, maybe. Can't guarantee heavy grunge, but golem fights, they're gonna have to be more hefty.
Ooh. Well, what's the iconic music when you fight the tank in Left 4 Dead? The it's kind of like trigger. Maybe they'll get something as recognizable as that.
Potentially something that we do have. Something I guess I haven't mentioned because we're not using it at this time. But with the new dynamic music system that we built that allows us to keep track of like enemy behavior and stuff, we also have the ability to have very much Left 4 Dead, where if an enemy spawns, it'll play like a music stinger, like a short, brief one, and it's a different one depending on how close you are to the enemy. That's something we can do now, and the stingers can actually be different depending on what piece of music we're specifically in right now. So, some section might have the zombies, like if a zombie spawns or like a golem spawns, it might have a certain sort of brass chorale that happens, and some other piece of music in a different area can have, for the same situation where a golem spawns, it can actually have a slightly different stinger. But so that's something that we want to do in future updates to notify and alert players a bit more to enemies spawning when we want them to know. Yeah, so nursery, super simplistic. Just got these string chords that in intensity, they just go up, and the rest of it is done through the audio tracks down here. And stems by Venny plus this one, which is, that one's derived from the music that you hear when you first enter the room that has the cart in it, which is the most stupid, like... Oops.
You got a little playful Pee-wee's Playhouse tone there.
I mean, absolutely. Sort of an idea that sort of got spawned out of looking at some other games like Outlast Trials, where they have a bunch of moments where they have some very childish sounding music, but in a very scary context.
Well, that has kind of become a staple of horror now. Like, child music, or like, isn't that what the entire Five Nights at Freddy's dynasty's been built upon?
Oh gosh. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's difficult because it's like we don't want to be too on the nose about it, because it's definitely such a like, it's such a trope. It's like the same thing as like, oh, let's add a music box to make it scary. Ooh, it's a music box playing a scary song. It's like such a trope.
Yeah,
but in this case, it just seems so fitting because we're like, here we are, D class, running through a technicolored, like, where we're trying to protect a baby. The first room's got clouds and building blocks and everything, and a sun on the wall. You just had to have that really dumb. Really dumb. I'm so happy. I'm not happy anymore.
Hey, you don't like telegraphing things, obviously? Like, what's that famous... I completely had a brain fart. But I was thinking of like some sort of like a famous, cutesy horror thing, like Five Nights at Freddy's, but completely slipped my mind.
Add experimental noise music, someone says. That's fun. If I mean, I don't know, you're probably joking, but in case you want to listen to something, there's a piece of music by a composer called Tene, which is, I think, from the early 60s, which is, I think it's called Analog Noise Experiment or something like that. I gotta look it up again, but it's basically just white noise filtered in different ways, and it's a piece of music that grows in intensity and then goes away again.
Spaceman keeps on requesting white girl music. So I guess are we getting
add white girl music.
Is that just T Swift? Is she the genre of white girl music?
I think we'd have some legal problems with that, but I guess we could come up with our own T Swift songs.
I don't know where it would fit in that would feel appropriate, but people seem to.
I'm seeing, will more audio be added in future for tension building, like when traveling through the first level air ducts and such? Yes, that's something I talked briefly about, like way earlier in the stream, but the whole campaign is like, it's desperately lacking in music, and it's getting a proper big soundtrack, where things like that are going to be taken into account.
If you had to guess, how much time do you think the full soundtrack will be? I guess it's a little too early to say now, but are we getting 3 hours of music, 2 hours of music?
Oh, that's difficult because it's like, I mean, this is like an hour of music. So I'm just trying to think, extrapolating this. 20 hours of music is a bit too much. I don't think it's going to be 20. It's going to be, I mean, it's going to be, it's going to be a few hours probably. 35, take it or leave it. Okay, fine.
100 hours.
They're just coming up with bigger numbers. It's just, okay. We got to stop at some point. Okay, that's too much. 60,000 hours of music. I don't have the time for that.
If only.
I know, right? Okay, now you're going insane. Now I'm worried for you. It's the age of the universe.
Well, isn't that a good thing? That just means they want more product, more music. If I had my way,
sure,
I'd have all
I'd
have all this stuff on Spotify. But I know that they want a more measured rollout. But at least we got some of the stuff on there.
That is all of the music in the testing chambers. You can see here, this is like the zoomed out view. This is all of the tracks that are in use in some way, shape, or form. Some of them are used in multiple instances. Some of them are only used once. But this is the nature of writing music. Goodness, we're flexible.
That is a good question. Would you like to see all this eventually come on vinyl?
I mean, signed by Arlie. Sets. I mean, I like physical media. I will also say that I also love FLAC files, and I'm personally content with FLAC files. But every game I've seen so many games print vinyls and cassettes even of their music. So, given that you're part of the marketing team, shouldn't you be very interested in that?
That's well.
I get a floppy disk while you're
I honestly don't know. I know vinyl's really popular. I just have no idea how much of it actually sells. I know that there's kind of like this. It feels like we're. It's interesting because so nowadays there's no such a backwards trend in physical media, but now everything's so consolidated. Did you hear the news about Netflix?
No, what's Netflix doing?
Netflix is buying Warner Brothers for like $80 billion. So little by little.
I will refrain from voicing an opinion that could get me into legal trouble.
So as we get more consolidation, and as just we don't get to own things anymore. We just have licenses.
Yeah, no, physical media.
Physical media demand is like skyrocketing. everywhere.
Something
So
I will say is like, yeah, physical media as well as having your own files, backups, or copies or stuff. Um, it's perhaps why I buy songs and then download the file and then have it in my playlist on my computer because I have the file. I'm not like borrowing it from a streaming service.
yeah, that's oh god, streaming was so great back in the day, but I guess I shouldn't be
Loved
too
it. Yeah.
surprised, unfortunately. But I just think it's interesting that like I keep on going down these rabbit holes on YouTube where I see this like all these like retro game markets that do banger numbers of people who just like trade and sell like Xbox 360, Xbox regular. And there's just such a huge nostalgia for like the physical age of media, of cartridges, and just actually owning and preserving these things. And I feel like that's only going to be accelerated as more things, which is who knows, maybe it is important. Once 5K sells 10 million copies, wins all the game awards. Maybe it would be prudent of
All of
us
them.
to release a
Even the ones that contradict the genre.
maybe a vinyl app would or a vinyl release of all the music would make sense.
I'd say we should do it.
We'll do it in a Kickstarter. Do you think a vinyl sounds better than like a MP3 or WAV files?
I don't think it sounds well. A vinyl will sound better than an MP3. Definitely. Hello, it's an MP3. I don't think it necessarily. I'm not one of those people that are like it's the better sound, but it does have something about it because it's got such an organic quality about it. That can make. I mean, that's why we emulate like orchestra. We like in manner we emulate vinyl to get that sort of effect because it's nice and pleasant and sometimes creepy, but nice and pleasant. I mean, literally the mastering chain that this orchestra that I've got here runs through, it's got tape emulation in the mix somewhere because there's just something about tape that changes the sound in a way that makes it nice. And obviously, it's not then locked to just the tape because obviously if you have a tape and you've got the saturation on the tape, if you make that into a digital file or something, it's going to sound the same pretty much. Digital files are such an accurate representation of what the sound of something actually is. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I put tape emulation on my orchestra just to give it a bit of that wavery frequency warmth that you get from tape. It's just something about it.
Yeah, it's just very homely and cozy, and it's just a vibe that cannot be replicated by a Bluetooth speaker.
Gosh, a Bluetooth speaker. I only play exclusive. If anyone ever says I play like SCP 5K exclusively listening through a Bluetooth speaker, I will cry. Get yourself some headphones. Get yourself anything that is not a Bluetooth speaker. I don't care what type of Bluetooth speaker it is.
Or Bluetooth boombox. Originally the 80s, cassette players, and now we've got kids with Bluetooth speakers connected to their iPhones.
We mastered this game on earpods. What is the AirPods?
We have been going for 2 hours, and thank you so much for, as always, thank you so much for volunteering and coming through for a nice, chill community event. How you feeling? How much longer would you like to go on? I don't want to like take up your entire weekend.
I am fine to answer any questions that might remain. I'm okay, but there's like in terms of the information I can give, like I could sure I can jump into here and talk about individual parts, but I don't think that people really want that. So, as long as my presence is still required, I suppose. Also, I just saw someone mention the Halo soundtrack. Correct. That's yeah. Halo, big fan. of the soundtrack.
Well, the Halo,
Except 4 and 5. Except 4 and 5.
What's wrong with 4 and 5?
It's not Marty.
Yeah,
It's not Marty O'Donnell.
Oh man, Halo is such a weird space. I could not. Halo had such a godly soundtrack. It was amazing that they like tried to like veer away from it. I don't know if it was like a licensing thing.
I think it was just different creatives being like, we can make this cool, and then no. Will you make a chorus ground as the title menu of Halo? I don't think we can manage that. Maybe, who knows? But the Halo soundtrack is beautiful. I think I was so struck with it because it's given that in the game you're running around shooting guns at people, but the music has such a like cozy, like, I mean, sure, it's got, but like there's so many just nice chords in it and just so many like just pretty textures that aren't just action, 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 action. I was like, oh, this is amazing. So like not even acknowledging the compositional like things in it, motifs and the actual orchestra, just the way that the music was used, given what the game is and what gameplay is, I'm just like, this is great.
Well, that's always like the that chocolate and peanut butter flavor. You don't know until you get it. The idea of having this like holy Gregorian monk choir chant for ostensibly what's like a kill zone, bro, Starship Troopers, Space Marine, kill all the aliens. It was just like one of those things you'd never think would work, but. I guess that was always Marty O'Donnell's genius.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Discord, should we force Social to do this discovery program with us until we reach the nursery?
Yeah, you might have to. Well, one thing that's overdue is like a game night where Albie increases the server size, so you just have like 16 or 32 people all rushing around there breaking the game. Haven't done one of those in a while.
I think that I might be remembering wrong, but that was one of the first, like when Point 17 launched, Albie was, because Albie does this where he just jumps into servers and plays with people. And like one of the first servers he jumped into had like a player level limit of 100. And he was just like, I wonder how this is going to go. I'm like, oh gosh.
I do have some footage of him playing in it. I need to edit those down into shorts. Undercover developer is playing with people who don't know who he is.
Oh.
There's just... But so I guess, are there any other gameplay music that's like you think is really knocking it out of the park, out of stuff you've played recently?
Oh gosh, recently. I've been playing very little games next to ours, especially recently. I've been focusing so much on Baldur's Gate 3 is a great one.
Just Baldur's Gate 3, I know it's like such a massive game. I started it, but I'm having trouble getting into a good groove of it just because I always have this feeling that I'm playing it wrong.
Have you ever played D&D like IRL?
No, I haven't. I hate filling out a sheet.
I love the idea of like, just you playing D&D with people around a table and just be like, I think I'm fucking this up, guys.
Well, it's just like, you see all these things like, oh, I'm going to have this incredible build where I just throw stuff and it does super damage. And, oh, I'm going to be an avatar build. And people just do all this cool stuff. And then I do something and then I strip on a trap, get my guy, half my team killed. And I try and put the Asterion in stealth mode, and I don't understand the stealth mechanics, and he gets found out, and I just feel like nothing's going right for me.
It sounds like quite the dilemma. Dilemma. Oh my gosh.
Well, I guess
Can't
it's like
speak
my
anymore.
issue with sandbox games, where like there's so much stuff you can do, it never feels like doing the right thing.
I mean, I guess fair. I love sandbox games. Again, I'm my personal love of chill games is perhaps a bit weird for this. You can trust me.
Calope asks, add a Christmas song to the game. Is there a chance that we're going to see a Christmas song?
Hmm. I think that's something I've always wanted to do. When there is a Christmas season thing going on, that if you're like, I don't know, standing near a Christmas tree, that it makes there's some sort of thingy for it to just be like, oh, that's cute. It's like a little bell thing. Or it could be ambient as well. Like I'm just thinking of an idea now because there's I don't know if you've ever seen this, but there handbells. I mean, you must have heard them at some point, but basically it's just bells you have in your hands and you ring them, and you can have them all sorts of sizes and they produce pitch. So you can have a whole, what is called a bell choir, I guess, where you just have a lot of people with different sized bells and they play pieces of music with the bells.
Well,
You need a lot of people for it, but it sounds beautiful. It's got such a like soft tone to it. It's not like church bells. It's not like glockenspiel. It's got this sort of really warm ring to it. And so now I'm just sitting here like, oh, if we ever like stand near the Christmas tree and like the intake labs lobby, have there be some sort of ambient handbell thing going on that's not like diegetic from the tree. It's just something that you hear in your head as you're standing there. That might be nice. Maybe. Who knows?
Oh, well, apparently they're talking about something more specific. A year or two ago, we did a Warning Bells Christmas song. So I guess they're wondering if there's a way to put that in the
What
game.
is this? Hang on.
It was a very cheeky. It would be a fun Easter egg, where you unlock a room and then the Warning Bells song plays.
My God.
I take it you're enjoying it.
That's the credits song. Actually calling it out. That's the credits song. Fuck it.
Yeah, all right. So
the game ends just like warning bells.
that would be a pretty hot credit song.
Thank you for I'm not gonna be able to get over that. That's gonna play in my apartment on Christmas Day.
Well, I'm glad that we have a new tradition for you.
Thank you so much. We have one. Hooray. Well done, you.
The agenda, there's first we had the Bananazilla agenda. Now we have the Warning Bells agenda.
Warning bells. The Warning Bells agenda. Hopefully not on a Bluetooth speaker. Yeah, no. Ugh. Us, don't highlight just me. US. Refer to the chat as us. Okay. Us is going a bit crazy. Sorry. Is this what being a Twitch streamer is like? It's like just, hey chat, what do you think of this? And chat is just like, refer to us as us.
Well, okay, but by any chance, have you seen Plurbius?
I've seen so many clips of it, but I'm holding off on watching the full show. I don't know why. I think it's just because I want to see it all the way through. I want to sit down and binge it. I don't want to have, because I don't. That's just one of the things that just drives me nuts. If I had to watch something and then stop because the episode isn't out yet.
I see. So that's your.
I'm excited. I think it's what they have like 9 episodes. I think they're on episode 6
yep,
now.
6
so
just
should
came
be
out
3
today.
more. Oh gosh.
I'd recommend it. It seems like it's becoming a TV show for the moment.
I mean, I love Ray Seahorn. Obviously, love Vince Gilligan's work. I loved Ray Seahorn in Better Call Saul so much. She's like my favorite person ever.
And so I don't know what's stopping you.
Her in a lead. Well, I want to binge it. I want to binge it. I don't want to wait. I mean, it's gonna be. Here's the thing. The Apple ordered like 2 seasons of the show. So whichever way you slice it, either I'm gonna be waiting for the next episode or I'm gonna be waiting for the next season. But we are going to watch it when the whole show is released so that we can binge it.
For shame. My philosophy is I believe in the water cooler discussion. The, when you have a thing, oh my God, it's Plurbius Friday. Oh, I can't wait. So I always say binge it to get caught up and then join the conversation as it comes out. But I mean, you'll have it before the end of the year. The Hive Mind has all the benefits except for I don't want to ruin this week's episode, but I'll just say there's a new piece of information about the Hive Mind that was revealed that completely changes the stakes of the show.
We don't know what you're talking about, Isaac.
All right. Never mind. Then stay oblivious. Don't understand it. Go in as blind as you can.
That's what you prefer.
But yeah, it's a great show. I can't recommend it enough. It is one of the most interesting twists, especially that pilot episode is incredible. But yeah, I highly recommend it. Definitely more interesting than Stranger Things 3 or 5 or the most recent season of that.
I'm fascinated that that's still going. I mean, I was never huge into it, but I'm just like, surely they must have stopped at some point. No? Okay.
Can I just give you a little? I mean, we're already sidetracked, but hey, it's late on a Friday night. We're chilling. Can I give you a little Stranger Things rant?
Well, go on.
So minor spoilers
chat?
for anyone who cares, but at this point, I don't think most people do. So Stranger Things 4 ends pretty apocalyptically. The 4th season has like the bad guy basically win. He's joined the Upside Down to the main world. You literally see like parts of the town blow up. And then it ends with them looking on, and it's just this dark, chaotic storm. It is like lightning is striking the ground. All hell is broken loose. You're thinking like, oh my God, this is it. We're in it. Things are going to go chaotic. The next season is just going to be this battleground between this other dimension where monstrosities are going to be pouring through. The military is going to barely be able to hold them back. The little kids are going to live in this apocalyptic war zone. Netflix is going to throw $1 billion at this. I can't wait. Right? That's the stake. That's what you expect. You want to know how the 5th season opens up?
On.
The 5th season opens up where the military puts giant metal sheets on top of the gateways, on top of the red gateways of basically the upside down dimension, and then everyone's just kind of pretending it's fine. Exactly. It's like I was just so I like it when shows like break the status quo because it's like dangerous and exciting when you like completely throw out what the status of the show is, and then we're just magically right back to it. The little kids are in high school. They're doing like kitschy 80s stuff, and I'm like, what the hell? I thought we were gonna get hell on earth. the Millie Bobby Brown psychically fighting off an unstoppable army of flower petal monsters, and just like instant, nonstop carnage in action. And no, we're still doing like little Scooby Doo. We have to figure out the mystery bullshit in the 5th season.
That sounds like fantastic storytelling.
I always thought it was ridiculous how each season always starts with like, kind of reverting to the status quo just so we can have a Scooby-Doo mystery, have the little kids solve it, and then have some sort of climax in the thing. I get having a formula. People like a formula, but like when you're doing these shows that like take years to produce and are super expensive, I guess you kind of like want a bigger escalation of stakes. But thank you. Camden agrees with me. So true. U.S. government fashion, cover up and ignore it. Yeah, I just thought it was like beyond ridiculous. But who knows? Maybe they're saving it for the last episode. Is that's when we'll get all the insanity. But we should pivot
The
this
last
back.
episode is just them going to like roller skate disco or something like that.
That's probably what's going to happen. They're going to like somehow. Honestly, I think they should have just gone all the way and give them all superpowers. They should all just have psychic powers. But they never quite wanted to commit to that. So you've got these like monsters that can like the U.S. Army with hundreds of flamethrowers and guys with bullets can't seem to handle. But somehow, little kids with slingshots flicking rocks at them is able to make them, make the monster subside, or all these like kids with no special powers are able to survive continuous encounters with these monsters that are seemingly immune to all conventional damage.
It's the power of friendship.
I guess so. It's just like, the power of friendship is, what you'd think. But I don't know. I think at this point, just give them all psychic powers. They should all just have superpowers. Just go with it.
Incredible content here today on the Afray stream.
Yeah, my hot ruining. I can't ruin a fray. Albarni and Trey will have an immediate signal, so I can't ruin 5K. But I could spoil the heck about Stranger Things. You can't stop me.
Okay.
But you know what? It is 10:30. We've been going for a while. We should have. How about this? We'll have a nice super round of audio-related questions before we wrap things up and let you go back and enjoy an evening of not watching Plurbius as you endure psychic symbols.
Fuck you! How dare you!
It's so good! Don't you want to be on the Plurbius train? You can share Plurbius memes. Poe Bishopo asks, what is your favorite sound that you've made?
Oh, fuck. Oh, God. Oh, that's a terrible question. It's a great question, but a terrible question because it changes so often. Okay, well, in SCP-5K... right in the deep end, yeah, thank you. SCP-5K, it might not be like my favorite, but it's a sound I really like, especially in context in Antarctica when the golems attack the junction boxes at the end during the finale. It makes this huge like electrical like spark noise, and I've always been quite happy with that. I think that was fun. I think perhaps my favorite sound ever is, if I may jump out of bounds briefly outside of SCP-5K and talk about SCP Unity, that broken old project that doesn't exist. But I made the 173 sounds for that at one point. I did all the sound music for that, but the 173 sounds, I ended up capturing a really interesting vocal, like metallic vocalization sound.
Ooh.
Which was basically, I had like an IKEA lamp and I had a metal rod, and if I rubbed it against a certain part of the like lamp, it made these really crazy like metal noises that would like it sounded like they're singing. And one of those came out of there that was like, oh, that one is really fun, and it still sticks with me.
Is there any way to hear it, or is it kind of like lost to
Oh,
the sands of
oh,
the
I'm pretty sure
ages?
I still have it. I gotta just see where it is.
Um,
Um,
while Evelyn pulls it up, any other questions as we wait for the best sound Evelyn has ever made?
oh my god! Oh god! No, 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 no! Don't put that on me. The best sound. I just like it. I just really like it. It's not complicated, but I just like it.
Well, let me rephrase the favorite sound that you've ever made.
Yes, there you go. See if I can. That's it.
Ooh.
I don't know if you heard that. I'm pretty sure.
I did. It was like a little opening metallic. It's a really scary sound. It sounds like something coming from behind.
Yeah. So that's in Unity 173 has these sort of states that it could be in, where it's we used metal noises to give it sort of vocalizations of sorts. So this is a sound that would happen when it notices you. So when it like came around a corner or you opened a door and it saw you for the first time, this would be the noise that it somehow produces. There's a few other variations, but they're nowhere near as good as this one. I couldn't reproduce it. It was just I have one recording of it, and it was me putting like a metal bar to an IKEA desk lamp, and it just got. And that's I love it.
It is a really, really good creepy sound. I hope you find an excuse to use it.
I don't know if I will. I am one of those people that sometimes, because I do have the rights to all of the music and the sound effects from that project, but I'm one of those people where it's like, it was made for this project and it should stay there. And I sort of feel that same way about music, which is sort of like, because I mean, I don't want to get into this, but there's so many people that would, after Unity ended, would reach out and be like, can we use your music, the stuff you made in our game? And I'm typically like, no, thank you, because I wrote the music specifically with the identity of this game in mind, and I feel weird then treating it like, oh well, it's not, because you can still play the game if you really want to get it. There's not a lot in it, but you can still find it, you can still play it. So to me, I'm like, well, it still sort of lives on in some weird way. So I don't feel comfortable taking like, even about myself, taking the music and then putting it somewhere else, being like, well, it's not putting, the project is dead, so it's not really being used anymore, so I can just use it somewhere else. I wrote it with that specifically in mind. So in these cases, I'd rather write something new. And I might like reference stuff, like that's perfectly fine. And that's something that I think I would encourage people to do in the SCP community, perhaps, if because like, especially to those people that might have been like, oh, the SCP Unity soundtrack is nice, can we use it? It's like, you should write your own soundtrack, but try to find somehow, like, if you like the tone, see if you can find a composer that can give you that sort of tone. And you are like, feel free to like make reference to melodies or motifs that you might have heard in this music in your own projects, because that's what musical dialogue is. That's how art happens.
Here's a bigger thing for when do you think like the tone of a project is unique enough that like it should stick with it, versus taking inspiration from something else, like doing a riff on like the Jaws.
It's difficult to say. I mean, there's always, obviously, like in the case that you mentioned, sure, it's drawing from a different source, but depending on how it's written, if it's, if they're not, if a game project like that is not just straight up using the Jaws theme, like what John Williams wrote and recorded and just using that, like if they write their own music somehow that uses that motif as some sort of element within it. To me, that it's transformative because it engages in some sort of dialogue with the original material, but takes it to a place that is their own. So in that sense, I'd be like, well, it's the tone that this game wanted, and it's their own. Sure, yeah, it's based on this.
Oh,
But
it's an interesting sort of artistic ethics. Poshibo asks, free source dead project or permanent shelved dead project?
it's permanently shelved dead project.
That is
Yeah,
the nature.
I do not need to get into the story of that because it was really fucking dumb. But anyway,
I'm sure that there are plenty of places you can probably find it online if you dig enough.
oh, definitely. Mm-hmm.
But that is the nature of indie projects. There's always the risk that it might not see the end of the light of day.
It's okay. You can just leak 5K stuff instead. It feels like I am, like with the way that people are digging through the Fmod files and be like, "Are you ever going to use this unused voice line?" Like, I wasn't even aware that was referenced. Like,
I thought that
now
was in the bag. Imagine, blank SCP's in here, and then that sound effect you have of the creaking metal door opening comes up, and then suddenly Al Barney's here. He's come from Australia. I don't know how. He tries to be very polite. Lobster, did you tell them about the on the stream?
Oh no!
They can't know. Then just neck snap sound effect. Captain Crunch.
And then Albie does the streams.
Exactly. My poor bird is left fatherless, alone.
On a music note, will the music be scaled for the progression within the campaign or kept as background filler? I'm not entirely sure I'm parsing out the right meaning out of this. It's definitely not going to be just background filler. We're going to use it in more specific ways to accentuate certain moments, whether they be short or bigger emotional moments. It's yeah. As in, we'll get more imposing the further you go through the campaign. Oh, there's some fun ideas floating around there that I cannot tell you about. Oh, but there's some fun ideas.
One of these days, in the future, we will host one of these streams, and you'll be able to actually hear, play all the stuff, and then you can ask about it. Oh, won't that be
Feels
a
bad.
glorious day?
Can't tell you right now, but there's some ideas. Who knows if by the time that we have the full game out and I can talk about this, if it's even going to be the same stuff I'd be talking about, because things change. But hey,
that is true. Maybe we'll do a stream where we play through all the different versions of the game, load them up all the way up to 1.0.
Oh gosh, that'd be terribly interesting, wouldn't it? Actually, like a retrospective of sorts.
Oh yeah. That would be amazing. It'd probably be hard to coordinate, but it would be super fun. Like whatchamacallit, figure out how to do this. Are any? This is a good question. Are any of the weapon sounds being reworked?
All the time. We've got a very talented sound designer on the team, Stefan, who's in charge of basically all of the weapon sounds. And he always finds time in some way to improve things, even without being prompted necessarily. He will just show up as like, I made this better. And it's like, oh, fucking hell. Okay, cool. Nice. Let's do it. I think the last time that we did a big rework was it 0.16? I think it was it 0.16? No, I think it was 0.17. 0.17 was the last big, huge rework of weapon sounds. Because that's when we consolidated a bunch of the guns into, first of all, we gave them different distant layers, which they didn't have before. So now they actually at a distance sound more realistic. And we consolidated tails a bit better. And with the new room system that we have, we can actually make more different, like more gun tails depending on the specific location that we're in. Right now we have like outdoor and indoor, but we theoretically could do outdoor forest, outdoor urban, and indoor big hall or indoor tiny closet or whatever. And that should be more manageable now, because previously, like, every gun had a unique tail, which worked in some cases, but it's taking a look at how other games like Battlefield, for example, do their gun audio. We found that actually they consolidate tails a lot more than you might think. And the way that they get different like tail sounds between guns is sometimes by just pitching it or putting some EQ on it. And so that's one of those things that you have to sort of keep track in especially big projects like this, is that you sort of start, like, when you create the sound, when you create the actual assets that go into the game, you do it in a way that you think about the structure of how many unique things do we actually make versus how we're going to manage them. So, like, if I don't know how we have a lot of guns in the game right now, and if all of them had a unique tail, and we were like, okay, let's add another tail for forest specifically, we'd have to make like 60 tails, which is crazy. Versus when you consolidate, you lower your workload. Sometimes perhaps you might be able to argue for the sake of realistic accuracy, but most cases it's perfectly fine, because the gun itself still has plenty of character.
What do you think is the defining factor that like makes a good gun sound from like a kind of a mediocre gun sound?
I think Stefan has mastered in somehow, like, there's the 3 core layers that are super important, which is the body or the actual shot, the mech, which is all of the mechanical parts of the gun moving, and the tail. And if you ever play just a shot sound without a tail, it's garbage. Like, the tail actually has a lot of influence on how the gun sounds, because that's what gives it its most defining, because otherwise it's just a pop. So the combination of tail and the mech is something that really shapes the sound. And then you can dig in further on the actual body of the shot, depending on which frequencies you actually emphasize in the shot. It can give you a lighter or a heavier sound. I mean, the well rod, which I think it has a full suite of sounds now in the newest hotfix, or 0.71. I think so. Don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure though it does. The well rod is terribly interesting because it literally just goes poof. So, like, it's one of the most interesting guns in the game right now, but like in terms of how it sounds, it's perhaps one of the most boring ones, because it just goes pop and there's no tail, there's very little mech, because it's a very simple mechanism, and it's super quiet in real life. It's incredible, but that makes it not quite as exciting to listen to.
And that's kind of like what one of the things Call of Duty does so well is having those really satisfying gun pops and crunchy shotgun sound effects.
I love the forget the model name, but the shorty that we did, or the short version of one of the short shotguns, because that one, the shot sound on it, like, most of the components are the same, but the shotgun was actually accentuated a bit more. The shockwave, yes. So that was great, because that one just has even more beef to it. So I was very, very happy when those sounds were delivered.
That is one thing that I will say for 343 is that, like, I thought their sound effects for the Halo 4 and 5 were really good for the guns. I thought all the human weapons sounded really meaty. Poe Bishopo asks, how difficult is it to make a gun sound for fictional weapons?
If you have a straight up gun, it's a bit easier, because there's plenty of reference. The Bloodhound was, oh gosh, I mean, because that one is like not a gun at all. It looks like a gun, but it functions completely differently. So making the sound for it was a little bit difficult to wrap your head around for a while, because the instinct is make it sound like a firearm, but that's not what it's supposed to be doing. And then something that you can very quickly happen is, as soon as you have a fictional weapon like that, is you lean too much into sci-fi. It's a very slippery slope. So the biggest difficulty is getting a foothold in a place that is somehow, away from a firearm, clearly showing that it's a different sort of mechanism, but also trying to stay grounded somehow through it. Which, we can take some liberties on. Obviously, we're an SCP game, but we're not a Star Wars game. So you gotta find that line where it is.
You'll know it when you hear
laser.
it. That's it's
You'll
like
know it when you hear it, and you'll also know it when Trey says no. That's yeah.
Trey is like the petulant 3-year-old child, where it's like, instead of
Holy shit! I'm gonna tell him that you said that. He's not gonna be happy.
Well, not in a negative way. Let me finish the analogy before you throw me under the clipped. I was in the sense that, like, he doesn't quite know what he wants. He says, "Give me something that I like." And then you got to give him a lot of different gun sounds, and then when he eventually finds the one that he likes, then he's happy.
I'm pretty sure that the reality is that he knows what he likes, but it's articulating it and allowing artists to have some room. I wouldn't want to be a game director, because, oh my gosh, he has a killer job. Like, it's a monstrously huge job. And I am continually amazed how he puts up with, like, even just me, I guess, because I'll send things to, like, I was just like, I wrote this melody, what do you think of it? And I just have to, because I gotta query him. I can't just, like, I can be happy with it, but I gotta make sure that he's happy with it, and he might not be happy with it. But that's my entire job, is seeing that he's happy with stuff before going forward. And so I always feel like, oh gosh, I'm just bombarding him with, like, the vaguest questions of, like, what do you think of this little melody? It's like, okay, well, try to form an opinion on, like, a 12-second demo somehow.
I guess maybe a better analogy is, like, it kind of reminds me of my little sister when she was like 3 years old, and she was like, I want to have something. Give me some. I'm hungry. I want to eat something that I like. And then you spend like half an hour. Do you want hamburgers? No, something that I like. Do you want pizza? Something that I like.
I don't like the analogy between comparing Trey to a child, but you do you.
But it's that sense when you finally get the right sound effect and everyone's happy, and you find that wonderful whatchamacallit.
AFRE moderator. Breaking news tonight on Fox 10. AFRE moderator Lobster Magnet found dead today after being shot approximately 439 times with a Glock 19 and an AR-15. There are no known suspects at this time. And that cuts to the footage, I guess.
Exactly. Trey, of course, does great work. I was just trying to articulate, maybe not necessarily as well as I could have, in a funny way, about the trying to find something very specific that is difficult to articulate.
It's a fun exercise, especially with music. It gets extremely esoteric very quickly. And just talking about, like, who is this character and what does the character mean, and it evolves very much into a lot of, like, very sort of vague descriptions of concepts that need to be translated into a piece of music that you can listen to.
Another request before we wrap things up, although we are having a good vibe session. Poe Bishopo asks, give us your most outlandish sound.
Oh my god. Am I your monkey? You just say dance monkey dance, and I go, Hello, test buddy. Most outlandish sound. My brain is so cooked, I genuinely can't like think of anything right now. That's pretty outlandish, right? Hello, test buddy. You always for later. Okay, fine. I'll keep you posted.
All right, it is nearly 11. I think we've had a wonderful session digging into all the different sound and wait. Also, should energy-based guns, if added, sound similar to real-world guns that were added electrical parts instead of sci-fi laser sound? You want to weigh in on that?
Where is that?
It was on YouTube. It was a YouTube comment. Should energy-based weapons have sound similar to real-world guns, but with added electrical parts instead of sci-fi laser sounds?
Mm-hmm. I think we're trying to stay away from like the classic laser, definitely. I think the rest of it was gonna have to just depend on the function of the gun. That's pretty much exactly what sort of happened with the Bloodhound, because it's a shot sort of happens, but I treated it too much like a shot at the start. And then I was like, well, move away from that to make it sound less like it's like an explosion out of like gunpowder. Make it different, which different is difficult. So, you might have some guns that perhaps can sound closer to the real world guns. But I also do like the idea of using creative sound design techniques and seeing what other textures you can come up with. Because sci-fi laser sound, obviously you immediately think of a certain, like, it's like you immediately think of like, I don't know, Star Wars, for example. And it's like, well, don't do that. But you can create all sorts of like continuous synths or record real sources and manipulate them in ways that makes them sound interesting as a texture for a weapon. And you can have that be influenced by different things. You can make it sound watery. You can make it sound icy if you want to. You can make it sound like it's like fire, and manipulate them all into something that's interesting depending on the weapon that you're working with. While at the same time trying to see if it's too sci-fi or not.
When I think of
My job is fine.
When I think of classic sci-fi weapons, I think of the laser guns in GoldenEye.
Oh, I'm just suddenly reminded of silenced guns and the way that they, unlike those classic games, they all go pew. It's like, that's not how a silent gun sounds. It's not pew.
One of the greatest tragedies of GoldenEye is that like now you can play it on so many other systems, but the control scheme was meant to only work on that really weird N64 controller, so it's like next to impossible to play on like a Switch.
I've heard that none of the ports are really good.
I've heard that exact same sentiment, which makes me sad. I love the idea. I love the idea of like being able, like, with my little Switch, I could play GoldenEye with anyone. But then I like, oh god, how do I map this godforsaken control scheme on this little Joy-Con? How do I make it work?
The greatest tragedies of GoldenEye. It's not a story that Jedi would tell you. Have you ever heard of James Bond, the spy? I don't know.
Have you ever heard of James, the 007?
Gosh. He could influence the midichlorians. Okay. Moving on.
James Bond, the original Mandalorian. All right. It has been a fantastic evening. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. As always, stay tuned to the Affray socials. Who knows? I actually had a fun idea. Let me run this by you, Evelyn, and let me see what you think. Thursday, and you guys as well. Would you want to do like a watch along for the Game Awards if I could get approval?
Ooh. What day is that again?
It's this Thursday, apparently on the 11th.
This Thursday. What time do they start?
Game
I've never
Awards?
actually watched the Game
You
Awards
never
live.
watched them live?
No, I mean, I used to live in Germany, so I think time zone wise, and plus I just didn't care that much. I just watched the videos about it afterwards.
Yeah,
But I think
don't
now
blame
it's
you.
like I could actually watch it.
It's at 7:30. Well, 4:30 Pacific time, 7:30 Eastern time.
Well, maybe.
I
Might
will
be fine.
propose it to the council and see if I can convince them. But yeah, I think that'd be really fun to like just sit around and watch and react to the Game Awards in Discord. I think that would be really fun.
Hell yeah.
So I'll see if I can make that happy, gents. Probably won't do a huge publicity campaign like I usually do to get people to know about events, but this one I think would be really neat. Who knows? Maybe someday we'll be in there. We'll be up there with Jeff Keighley calling our name out.
I'm so excited.
So stay tuned for future updates on SCP-5K, future announcements, future community events, future movie nights, and of course, maybe even a game night in the future. All kinds of fun stuff. And thank you for hanging out with us on this wonderful Friday. Thank you so much, Evelyn, for taking us into the depths of the soundscape of the Discover program.
My response.
Hope you have a wonderful weekend, and look forward to having you again, hopefully sometime in the future.
All the people for chatting.
Yeah, thank you all for hanging out with us. Have a great weekend.